The average podcast listener, if you were to distill it down to one person, is a 34-year-old kind of ethnically ambiguous male. That dude is stupid. What do I mean by stupid? He's in the midst of his mating years and will spend money on irrational, high-margin things that signal his value as a mate. In today's Office Hours, we talk about the future of podcast ads, finding purpose after the military, and how to enjoy a trip to London. Question number 1. Our first question comes from user Impressive Detail 407 on Reddit. They say, Scott, regarding advertising revenue growth, you often document the valuable and elusive audiences reached via podcasts. But where is the innovation and personalization in podcast advertising? I fast forward past 99% of audio ads while consuming about 15 hours of podcast programming per week. Why is a 90-plus-year-old radio ad model with hosts reading sponsorship blurbs and branded content being attached like a parasite to the shows we love? Okay, so I believe that podcast revenue or advertising is growing faster than any ad-supported medium. The average CNN viewer is a 62, 64-year-old white female. She is smart. She already knows who she's voting for. She's not spending money on stupid shit like $8 Frappuccinos or Panerai watches or Van Cleef & Arpels. She's past her mating years. She's not trying to impress anybody. She's not going to buy $1,200 Manolo Blahniks, right? The average podcast listener, if you were to distill it down to one person, is a 34-year-old kind of ethnically ambiguous male. That dude is stupid. What do I mean by stupid? He's in the midst of his mating years and will spend money on irrational, high-margin things that signal his value as a mate. A cool new Audi, a Panerai watch, James Purse T-shirts that cost $80 when it's $3 a cotton, because he is still trying to express himself to potential mates and impressive friends. He's coming into his prime income earning years. He's enjoying spending money. Also, he's up for grabs politically. People that age, mostly, especially males, mostly vote based on who they think is going to be best for them economically. And on that issue, it flips back and forth between Democrats and Republicans. So what's happening? Money is coming out of the cable news network and it's going into podcasts. And there's still very few places you can reach a young man with advertising because most young men are on Spotify and Netflix and avoiding advertising altogether. Now, in terms of the technology, you're right. People can skip through ads and a lot do. But the difference, or the innovation, if you will, with podcasting versus traditional advertising is Fareed Zakaria or Thomas Friedman on CNN and the New York Times, respectively. They refuse to read ads. And their host institutions, CNN and the New York Times, think it is journalistic malpractice for the journalist to read an ad. It's unseemly. It's not pure. Whatever. The reality is if you're used to my voice and you're here, it means you sort of trust me, sort of like me. And so when I tell you that I love Amex, I love Apple products, I love Viore, I love that everyone in my company uses Adobe products for all of our creative work. I mean, it's just that I wear on. I mean, I can go through the list of things that I do, right? That all my cars my whole life since I got some money were either Range Rovers or Mercedes or BMWs. God, I sound like a douchebag. Anyways, the airlines I fly, everything. If I can speak to it credibly, if I can say, no, I actually do love Warby Parker glasses, which is what I'm wearing now, right? Then the brand loves that. It's just much more authentic. It's much more real. It's much more impactful. So the innovation is host readovers. I don't know if the targeting, I think the targeting is probably a little bit better. You just get different ads in different regions. So I think the ad insertion is probably a little bit better, although I bet TV's now doing that. What I think the real innovation is one, the host readover, and two, the ads and the content are more impactful because it's more intimate. What do I mean? When the TV's on, oftentimes it's in the background. You start seeing an ad for, a pharmaceutical to get rid of your toe fungus. You literally just screen it out. If I'm in your ears and you're listening to my voice right now, you feel as if we have a relationship and you feel as if we're friends and there's more trust. So, and then the seamless handover to the host readover, the barriers don't come up as quickly. There's just more trust. There's more penetration. The beach is already softened. Your wet matter's already sort of open to listening about what kind of products I like, what kind of supplements I take, that I like T-Mobile or whatever it is, right? Or that I like Mint Mobile. So my point is, there is innovation there, and more importantly, people are actually listening to our ads. It's our audience, and increasingly, it's our reach. So If you add up the audio downloads and the views on YouTube of this pod, it'll be about 200,000. The average CNN show, I think it's 160 or 180. So we're actually getting the same reach now as CNN with a more attractive audience, with a more intimate format where they're actually listening and tuning in, which means $47 CPMs versus 15. Is there room for improvement in targeting? Absolutely. But right now, the innovation around podcasting is simple. People are actually tuning in. They will listen to the ads. The audience is much more appealing. And the format of host readovers and it being a much more intimate format make the ads more resonant. Thanks for the question. I think this stuff is super interesting. Thank you. Support for the show comes from Saks Fifth Avenue. Saks Fifth Avenue makes it easy to holiday your way. Whether it's finding the right gift or the right outfit, Saks is where you can find everything from a stunning David Yurman bracelet for her or a sleek pair of Ferragamo loafers to wear to a fancy holiday dinner. And if you don't know where to start, Saks.com is customized to your personal style so you can save time shopping and spend more time just enjoying the holidays. Make shopping fun and easy this season and find gifts and inspiration to suit your holiday style at Saks Fifth Avenue. Question 2, Alex from DC.
Hey, Prof G. I'm prior military and recently got out. When I was in the military, I didn't love the bureaucracy of it, but I loved the people that I was surrounded with. The old adage is, you love the clowns, but you hate the circus. There, I felt like there was a deep sense of community and that there was a goal behind everything that I was doing. If I wasn't doing the mission actively, then I was helping mold the young Marines that I worked with into better Marines and better people. Transitioning into the private sector, I found it very difficult to have that same sense of mission and purpose. Maybe it's because I don't really love where I work, but what advice would you have for somebody that misses the identity and the community that they want to be involved with? How can I be more involved in work? And how can I build a better sense of community so when I come into work, I feel like I belong here?
So it sounds passe or cliche when people say thank you for your service, but I really do mean thank you for your service. One of my big regrets is not serving. My father took me to Annapolis. He wanted me to go in the Navy, mostly such that he wouldn't have to pay for my schooling. And it was one of those moments where I realized, like, we're different than anyone else. Like, I didn't have the grades to get in. And then someone said you needed to get a letter from your senator. And I'm like, I don't even know who the senators are in California. And I just felt like an imposter there with my dad. I was never going to get into Annapolis, but other ways to serve. But I think young men such as yourself that have served and young women, for the rest of your life, your life kind of had purpose. Anyway, I don't have an easy answer for your question. I would imagine that waking up and being responsible for defending your country and learning how to use weapons and learning how to train young men and women such that they felt like they could depend on each other for their safety and their lives, and the history and the community. I don't know how you're going to get that, working at the headquarters of Chick-fil-A. I think a lot of our veterans really struggle with how to find that sense of purpose and mission. And I think one of the reasons that the military continues to attract some of our most talented, our best and our brightest, is not because of the money. The money's okay. It's not good and it's definitely not great. But because you do get that community, you do get that sense of pride of serving the agency of something better. Now, the question is, do you have to find that community at work, or can you find other communities, whether it's a church group where you get to have an influence on young people, whether it's staying involved in the military somehow, whether it's getting involved in a situation or things where you can help young men, whether it's being a coach, whatever it is. It sounds like some of your skills were from helping others and having a sense of community. It'd be great if you get that from work, but if you don't, it doesn't mean that there aren't other places to establish community. So without knowing much about your work, if you hate it and there's no sense of community there, then, I would suggest looking for another job at some point. Don't leave until you have another job because it's easier to find a job when you have one. But I don't know if I have any real insight around how to get that reward you get from community at your work, not knowing anything about your work or the specifics there. What I would say is that I think there are a lot of people who get that community compensation from other parts of their life. Their church, their sports league, nonprofit work, working with young people, helping others, and then friends and the community around whatever it is, your temple, your riding club, your sports league. But I think trying to mimic the community you got from your day job while serving trying to mimic that in the private sector is going to be a real challenge. So I do think that being in person is a much better way to, I think the office is a feature, not a bug. So I don't know if you're working remotely, but maybe trying to find a job where you get to be in person. I think community is largely a function of proximity. So that's one thing. Are you in the office enough? I appreciate the question.
Support for Prof G comes from Pipedrive. One of the major things entrepreneurs struggle with when starting a business is the sales process. It's easy to get disorganized, jumping between back and forth emails, scattered notes, and forgotten follow-ups, spending more time chasing paperwork than actually closing. That's where Pipedrive comes in, a top-rated CRM tool for small to medium businesses. Their visual sales pipeline lets you see where every deal is, what stage it's in, and what needs to happen next, and it's all in one dashboard. You can automate follow-ups and set reminders for meetings so no contact gets forgotten and leads don't slip through the cracks. Plus, Pipedrive AI analyzes your sales process, helps you summarize long email chains, and finds qualified leads for your business. It's a powerful, simple CRM built by salespeople for salespeople. Join the over 100,000 companies already using Pipedrive. Right now, when you visit pipedrive.com/ProfG, you'll get a 30-day free trial. No credit card or payment needed. Just head to pipedrive.com/ProfG to get started. That's pipedrive.com/ProfG, and you can be up and running in minutes.
Welcome back. We're on to our final question, which is from Reddit user DoConfection98. Just where did they get these names? And DoConfection98 says, "Hi, Scott. I'm making my first solo trip to London in 3 weeks. You've dropped many tips about great spots to eat and drink in New York City, but I don't recall any London suggestions. I'm planning to catch a match, probably Chelsea, and spending the rest of my 3-day adventure eating and drinking all the best the town has to offer. What area of London will be lively but not too touristy and full of college kids? Best neighborhoods to spend an afternoon getting lost while walking the streets? Thanks in advance for any suggestions." All right, welcome to London. So first thing, you've got to go see a Premier League game. It doesn't matter what team. It doesn't matter where you sit. It's just, if you want to understand UK culture, Premier League football is arguably our best export. And listen to me, like I'm a Brit. You just see, it's just so much emotion. It's so much fun. And it really doesn't matter the team, but just get tickets. In terms of hotels, there's just the Ferndale hotels do an amazing job at a decent price point. Go on. When I was more budget conscious, I used to use Hotels Tonight. If you have the money, then definitely try, like the Connaught or the Rosewood. The new Rosewood is just absolutely spectacular. There's some beautiful hotels here, but they're very expensive. Try late night, the Connaught Bar. If there's any way you can get an inn at the hot members clubs or Maison Estelle, 5 Hertford. I don't know if you're connected enough to get into places like that, but they're very kind of classic British. If you have time, go out to the country side, and you don't have to be a member, but stay at Soho Farmhouse, which I just think is spectacular. Sort of this super cool take on the Cotswolds. Also, Maison Manor, and you don't have to be a member to book a room out there, but if you have enough time to go spend a couple of days in the Cotswold, it really is beautiful. I think the Tate Modern is incredible. The Royal Academy of the Arts is beautiful. I'm not into museums, and I think they're great. If you're into war, I love the British War Museum. I think that's fantastic. Restaurants, I'd go to Gymkhana, maybe Sketch. I love Granger's. Or Granger & Co. I think they do a great job. Again, for dinner, Hyde. The neighborhoods, Shoreditch is kind of edgy. Mayfair is kind of luxe. And I would say that Hampstead is more sort of under the radar, if you will. But I also think just walking, my favorite high street, because I live close to it, is Marylebone High Street. Just walking up and down there. In terms of kind of high-end retail, I love Selfridges. If it's nice, I would definitely take a walk in Regent's Park and just marvel at the Rose Garden and grab some coffee and just kind of let the day go by. But I would begin and end at a Premier League game. I just think they're incredible. Some logistical tips when you're coming in: absolutely take the Paddington Express into town from London's Heathrow Airport. I just think walking around any number of these neighborhoods, London, I feel very safe in London. Take the tube. Except for once, take a London black cab because the cabbies themselves are just hilarious. But welcome to London. It is one of the great tourist cities in the world. And I think it's, despite all the shitposting about it, I actually think New York and London are both in sort of golden ages. I think they're just great places to hang out. Anyways, welcome to the United Kingdom. And if you can, go Gunners. Root for Arsenal. That's all for this episode. If you'd like to submit a question, please email a voice recording to officehours@profgmedia.com. Again, that's officehours@profgmedia.com. Or if you prefer to ask on Reddit, just post your question on the Scott Galloway subreddit, and we just might feature it in an upcoming episode.